Welcome to the Civic Forum on Whispers 87.7 FM. My name is Uche Nogo. A pleasure to have you join us today. It's always a pleasure to have you join us, but I'm not alone in the studio. I'm going to introduce my guest very, very soon. We're looking at the Judiciary and Gender Parity. Can more women in lordship, leadership, and trust in institutions, can they do that? So we will dive straight to our conversation, and I'd like to introduce my guest to you in the studio to help us examine this important question. Is a legal professional. She is Chioma Onyenucheya-Uko. I got that right.
Chioma Onyenucheya-Uko.
Yes, Chioma. Okay, welcome. She's the chairperson, International Federation of Women Lawyers, FIDA in Nigeria, Abuja. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. I know you're very busy, so we still grabbed you this morning. So before we go further, quickly tell us about how you got to do law and how did you get to this position?
Okay. I'm sure people would usually say something like, well, I just thought I had a calling, or I just wanted to contribute to justice or give voice to the voiceless and stuff like that. And the more people who talk about it, the more it sounds like cliche. But really, for me, it wasn't just a matter of I want to choose a course I want to read in school. It's because I perceived the legal profession to be truly a noble one that gives one an elevated voice, in my opinion, in the society, to shape justice, to contribute to protecting rights for the vulnerable. And that was something I perceived as a truly high calling, and I mean that was the attraction. And I think it's the same thing that also led me to my leadership roles, particularly the role I hold now as the chairperson of FIDA. Because if you understand what FIDA is about, promoting, protecting, and preserving the rights of women, children, and persons with disability, essentially, then what better way does one actualize purpose? What better way does one contribute, to impacting a larger demographic of the society, if not to be part of a group that shapes, contributes to shaping policy, contributes to enlightening those who would have suffered for ignorance and the rest of it. So truly, it's all about impacting our world better and fulfilling purpose.
Awesome. We see more women taking position like this. What do you think is driving this shift?
Part of what I think is driving this shift is the fact that women have always been beings of potentials, except that society, by the way it's structured, perceive them as lesser beings and have treated them in that manner. But the more opportunities women get for education, the more opportunities women get to prove their mettle, to apply themselves, the more we increasingly see, an evolving demographic of women who bring value to every table, to every room that they are part of. So I think what has happened is that we now have a growing number of women who have enjoyed, right to education. We have a growing number of women who have applied themselves in their vocation, in their careers, in their professions, and as is expected, because capacity is not a gender issue, because competence doesn't have a biology to it, as it were. You now see these women proving themselves and climbing the ladder in whatever field of endeavor they are found in, as is happening now in the judiciary. It wasn't that overnight women emerged at the echelon of a profession. No. What has happened is that over the years, those women as judges have risen through the ranks, have applied themselves in whichever court they've been in, and over the years, they've been part of the best amongst their peers.
You dare say.
And oh yes, they have been part of the best among their peers, and because of the hierarchy that comes with the profession, they have risen through the ranks to now head, the Court of Appeal, as we have the president of the Court of Appeal being female, and now the Supreme Court of Justice, which of course is not the first time we're having a woman, but it's still epochal because this is only the second woman heading that court. And this is also beginning to play out in other segments of the legal community, as it were. We have a woman now heading the law school, the Nigerian law school.
Yeah.
And recently, just very recently, the emergence of the first elected female president of the Nigerian Bar Association. So these are products of hard work through the years, women who've had the opportunity to, apply themselves and have shown themselves capable just as much as the men.
You've talked about the opportunities that women are being given in the legal profession. However, are there still informal barriers that people don't talk about your profession? You don't talk about it openly.
Okay, I think maybe I'll need to paraphrase what you said about being given. It's not like they've been given. What has happened is that because they've trained just like the men, and they've enjoyed the same opportunities that the men have, which is all we've been asking for, they have proven themselves and have emerged. So it's not like a tokenist thing. Nobody gave anybody nothing. All that has happened is that because they've had the opportunity, they have earned the offices they currently occupy, each one of them and more. Then, are there still impediments? Of course there are. Because we know that if you observe closely, you'll see that the average woman who is inclined to the practice of law have a lot of things to contend with. And I'll speak now maybe as the leader of, an association of women lawyers. Sometimes we lose our best minds, the really bright ones sometimes, to family, for example. What happens? A young girl who shows prospects gets married, which is a beautiful thing to happen to any person. And then this marriage happens and she needs to relocate because it's usually the woman who has to pay some of those prices, assuming her spouse doesn't live in the same city with her. And then this movement occasions some unsettling realities. She needs to acclimatize again in her new environment. She needs to begin to try to carve a niche for herself in the new space. And then she has to deal with raising children, because of course it is the woman due to biology that has to carry the children and then nurture them, particularly in the tender years. And as that is happening, she's struggling with, merging that effectively with building a career, which oftentimes is not as easy as it sounds. Maybe now in this age of remote services, maybe a few of them are able to leverage on those digital opportunities, but it has not always been. And even now, it's still not a ride in the park, a walk in the park. So because of that, sometimes the women begin to lag behind in the, early years because their male counterparts rarely suffer any of those disadvantages. There is no family. I mean, yes, providing for family, but then the women are also eager to provide. But there are other duties that call that sometimes hamper their ability to focus on, supporting with that provision. And then again, there is also that patriarchal mindset that we have not succeeded in dismantling. There are just those who think white female, a woman. The mere thought of woman, female, kind of gives them the jitters like.
So let's navigate the conversation to politics, women in politics. What are your thoughts? Do you think that women are being given enough chance when it comes to Nigerian politics?
I don't think so. I don't think women are being given enough chance in politics. And the reason is, let's start from the history of politicking in Nigeria. While women has always made up a sizable number of our population, they have never really been factored in when it comes to, developmental population metrics. And because of that, even in politics, women are only a later entrant into that space. It wasn't until as recently as 1979 that women enjoyed universal suffrage in Nigeria. And that being the case, the men had already saturated the space, of course. And then the women are trying to play catch up. Because they are trying to play catch up, remember, in a society that is already, traditionally skewed against them, it becomes difficult to penetrate without some aid, without some equitable, consideration. Which is why the advocacy for the special seats bill is critical for those who don't understand it. It's essentially a window to get in more women into, political position, particularly in the parliament, so that, as that cycle of 4 years that has been proposed, as that time runs, they're able to build capacity. They're able to expand their network. They're able to, gain the necessary visibility and all of the things necessary for politicking, including building the financial base. Of course, some of which may not necessarily be from their pocket, but also from the network they would have, built over that period. So what I think needs to happen is, can our political parties begin to be deliberate and serious? Can they be sincere in gender mainstreaming? Can we ensure that for every executive tenure in a political party, that there is a representation of the Nigerian gender policy, which is a minimum of 35%? All it takes is the political will to do that.
So two thoughts. One, a lot of people say women are the issues against, we don't support each other. And the second thing is that a lot of women don't even come out. So you represent a very big and important organization. Do you mentor young women? Do you support such women to come out?
It is falsehood for anybody to say women don't support women. I'll tell you what the truth is.
But I'm sure you've heard that.
I've heard it multiple times over. It's a lie that has, they just keep perpetuating that lie. And I'll tell you what I think happens. Human beings will at occasions not support some human beings. There are men who may sometimes not support men, just as there are women who may sometimes not support women. It's not a gender thing. What do people look out for? So I was raised by a father who is very feminist, a father who believes in the innate abilities of the girl child. And if there was an opportunity before my dad retired, God rest his soul, and I had him against a woman who I wasn't sure of her pedigree in that department, do you think I'm going to say, because she's female, I'm going to support her against a man that I know that is proven to support and advance the interest of women? What I'm saying is, beyond even those considerations, we're looking at capacity, right? We're looking at people who bring meaningful progress to the table. Now, if that becomes the case, and two equally competent people are in a contest, people are going to vote according to persuasions, not necessarily, across gender lines. Yes, I get the concern. Yes, but we need more women, and because we need more women, everything else should wait. Let's just get more women in the room. I don't think that's what it's about. It's about humanity. It's about development. It's about what impacts the society better. But we are saying there are women who are equally capable to bring, make these deliveries. And because we so believe, that's why we keep asking for a level playing field, which is what this equitable, consideration will do for us. So it's not just about having a woman in the room. It's about making the space freer for more women of competence, more women who have the capacity to be able to compete fairly and earn deserved spaces.
So how should the legal system respond when culture and tradition practices conflict with the rights guaranteed to women under the Nigerian law?
They should respond just as the Supreme Court responded in the case of Okeji versus Okeji. That's how they should respond. They should respond by upholding the principle that every custom, every tradition that is repugnant to natural justice, equity, and good conscience should be struck down. They should respond by giving effect, giving voice to the intentions of our law, which is that nobody should suffer any discrimination on account of their gender and the rest of the indices. That's how they should respond. They should respond by, applying judicial activism to give, developmental interpretations to our laws as we have them. If the politicians lack the political will, the judiciary can activate the judicial will to give progressive interpretations and ensure that the rights of women and every vulnerable person is protected at all times. That's how they should respond.
If women are underrepresented in political leadership, does this also affect the laws and policies that are made for women?
But of course, is it not the person who is in the kitchen that mixes the ingredients? Is that not the person who will introduce what goes into the broth? That's what happens. That is why diversity and inclusion is necessary, because you'd only see as much as your lens permits you. But when you have diverse voices, when you have different people from different backgrounds, people of different gender on the table, they will enrich the process. They will contribute from their lived realities, from their lens, from their perspectives, which will enrich it now. So of course, yes, it will.
I think you're very passionate about.
I mean, that's yes. I think it's just a commonsensical thing. When we deprive women the opportunity to contribute, we rob ourselves. We rob our future. We rob our children.
So speak to political parties listening.
I think that what our political parties are doing is shortchanging themselves. You can't continue to have a demographic that represents almost a half of our population and you ignore that critical mass. And not just as a token gesture, but as a self-informed survival strategy. It's about time our political parties ensure that we have more women on the table. And I am particular about, the executive offices in the political parties. Can we ensure that we have more women who are supported to go for those elective offices? And even in this age of consensus and what have you, they can also ensure that those women enjoy that consensus and are brought to the table. So to our political parties, it's about time you begin to listen to the yearnings of a majority of your population and ensure that more women are given a seat at your table to represent a broader Nigeria, an encompassing Nigeria, a Nigeria that will serve all of us better, including you, whichever party you are.
So as chairperson of FIDA Abuja, what is the one misconception about women's rights that you wish Nigerians would stop believing?
I don't know if many people understand enough that everybody in Nigeria is entitled to equal rights. I don't think they do. I don't think they understand this because this singular understanding will equip more people, male and female, to understand that just as a man enjoys the right to own a property in his name, a woman has the same enjoyment. I mean, as a family lawyer, one of the things you see is that when women want to own property, including those who are breadwinners in their homes, there's a perception that it is too audacious for a married woman to dare own a thing in her name, whether it be land or car or whatever you. She's expected to show humility by, conceding it to come in the name of her husband. They think that's what shows parity. They think that's what shows submission. But that's not true. Marriage does not extinguish individuality. Every human being is entitled to the, agency of self. So what that means is that since we are all equal, or we are all entitled to equal rights, it therefore means that regardless anybody's status, marital or otherwise, every woman should look out for herself, not because she doesn't believe in the unity, of the union, but because she remains an individual human being for all times and is entitled to having a legacy for herself.
Chioma, my final question. Do you see this country having a female president anytime soon? In all honesty.
It seems impossible, but something persuades me that it is possible. And I'll tell you why that persuasion is strengthened. With the emergence of the incoming president of the Nigerian Bar Association, the president-elect, I saw a woman who, wasn't quite my candidate, I must tell you the truth, but she went at that with as much resilience as anybody else could.
Did you just say she wasn't your candidate?
She just wasn't. That's the truth.
Female.
She wasn't. Yes. So that was part of what I had tried to explain earlier. Because there are times when it comes down to practical issues beyond gender. The work we do, when we talk about having more women in the room, you're not going to exclude the role of the men in doing that. There are men who have supported the cause of women over the years. And for these men who have consistently shown support for us, we're not going to alienate them on account of their gender. You can't do that. So what I'm saying is sometimes we begin to look at, we unbundle things and look beyond gender sometimes. But that is not to defend or justify anything. All I'm saying is, regardless that I didn't quite give her a fair chance at the beginning, I saw a woman who went at it with everything. She went at it tenaciously, she went at it dedicatedly, and despite the support she enjoyed from some of the custodians of the profession, she didn't rest on her hours to think that because I have this, volume of support, I'm going to just, cruise through. No, she put in the work from start to finish. And if that could happen in an association as the legal profession, if that could happen there, I am truly persuaded it can happen in Nigeria. All that needs to happen will be for a few men to agree that a woman is deserving of an opportunity, commit to it, and then have women also rally behind that woman. And that's possible, which means we can't also go at it alone. There's no way we're having just, a women, whatever you want to call it, a coalition or whatever name you want to give it. There is no way that in itself alone is going to deliver a female president or governor tomorrow. It must be in concert with the men. They are already our traditional gatekeepers. They are the custodians of most of the power blocks we have in our traditional societies, including the religious spaces. And because of that, there is no way we are penetrating without them. We need them. And with what happened in NBA, it means that when you are able to enjoy the support of these select men and then have the women rally, a Nigerian female president is happening soon.
Chioma, it's been amazing having a conversation with you. Very insightful. Thank you for coming on the Civic Forum, and we hope to have you pretty soon.
Thank you.
And to everyone, thank you for joining us on the Civic Forum. Join us tomorrow for another topical conversation. My name is Uche Nogo. Have a great day.